Science fiction sequels can usually go one of two ways. Either they expand on the fiction in creative and exciting ways like Blade Runner 2049, or they completely ruin everything that was good about the self-contained first story like those two Matrix sequels. When it came to the follow-up for The Fall, I found myself a little indifferent. I remember enjoying the first game, but didn't get emotionally invested in the world or characters. Now that I've played The Fall Part 2 Unbound, I'm excited to say that this sequel blows the first game away and adds to the story in ways I wasn't expecting. This is no Matrix Reloaded. This brand new sequel takes place immediately after the events of the first game. We see that Aerith is having something of an identity crisis. She's an AI program that has managed to finally break free of her rules, only to find that a human user has infected the network with a virus that threatens to shut Aerith down. This sends her on a mission to save herself and hunt down this user before it's too late. Now, I wasn't exactly sure what to expect going into The Fall Part 2 Unbound, but I can tell you right now that I hadn't even considered that a sex robot would be part of the fun. Let me back up. In order to complete her mission, Aerith will need to team up with some of the different robots that make up this futuristic world. And when I say team up with them, what I really mean is that she'll subtly, and not so subtly, convince them to help her take down this rogue user. This gives us an opportunity to experience this world from several completely different perspectives. One of my favorite stories involves a robot soldier who is somehow broken free of the collective hive mind. He paints, he listens to music, and has come to the realization that he's an individual that's able to think for himself. His story is, at least initially, completely separate from that of an anal retentive butler that can't seem to break free of an endless loop, as well as that companion robot who is just looking to help people. No matter which story you're playing, the basic structure comes down to a mix of point-and-click adventure gaming and run-and-gun shootouts. Each character has a set of puzzles, so you'll need to explore the surroundings and interact with everything. This means a lot of clicking on useless objects in hopes of finding the right solution. But then from time to time, the game will toss in a few action stages that always feel half-baked. Actually, you know what, on second thought, I wouldn't say they always feel half-baked. Yes, the shootouts are painfully repetitive, but the hand-to-hand combat is actually pretty good. These brief sections remind me of something like Kung Fu or Vigilante, where all you do is kick and punch people rushing you from both sides. This is a good example of just how different these three stories end up being. Everything from the look to the puzzles to, yes, the combat feels noticeably different from one character to the next. That's easily the best part about The Fall Part 2 Unbound. I found myself completely sucked into these three stories and caring about these robots. I also cared what happened to Aerith and wanted to know more about this world. And without giving anything away, I'll say that all of the parts come together in some fun and clever ways. This really is a story about self-discovery, and I love how this game comes at this theme in a bunch of different ways. And I have a hunch I'm going to be thinking about Aerith's journey for some time to come. It's a good thing the story is so strong, because the gameplay continues to be the worst part of this franchise. Even when she's at the top of her game, Aerith is still stiff and not as responsive as you'd like. This is especially true when you're locked into one of the many shootouts, where suddenly doing simple things like jumping and turning around become a nightmare. And the thing is, The Fall Part 2 seems aware of these shortcomings and even gives us a quick way to aim at enemies. But even then, it's clear this game was not designed with combat in mind. So when I reviewed the first game back in 2014, I complained that too much of the game took place in one boring location and that the puzzles were occasionally obtuse. Well, the puzzles can still be a bit obtuse at times, but at least there are a bunch of different locations to explore. This is a much bigger game than the first, and the change in scenery is a big improvement. That said, I do wish there was more done with the individual locations. When it comes right down to it, I would have preferred another 2 or 3 hours of these robots to Aerith running around and shooting smoke monsters. After being mixed on the first game, I find myself completely sucked into the world of The Fall Part 2. I love the characters, the adventure game scenarios, and how the story ultimately plays out. Unfortunately, the compelling narrative is bogged down by stiff gameplay and lame shoot-'em-up sections. But even with those criticisms, The Fall Part 2 Unbound is a vast improvement over the original that delivers a thought-provoking story that you won't be able to stop thinking about. Hey, thanks for watching our review. So here's the question of the day. What's your favorite science fiction sequel? And look, it doesn't have to be a video game. There are all kinds of great movie and book science fiction sequels. Let me hear your thoughts in the comments below. In other news, I'm currently working hard to climb out of what can only be called a review backlog. I have a bunch of stuff to get to, including Bleed 2, Xenon Valkyrie Plus, Tiny Metal, Under Night in Birth, A Case of Distrust, Aperon Cyberstorm, Mercenary Kings Reloaded Edition, True Fear Forsaken Souls, and at least a dozen more. I recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then,